Hi, hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss some of the recent decisions in GST which have been reported in Bombay Chartered Accountant Journal June 2021 edition. The first case is with respect to Meghdut Logistics, Karnataka High Court. Section 129 and 130 of the CGST Act, simultaneous proceedings can be initiated under both sections. The facts of the case are as follows. Petitioner is a transporter moving tobacco products from Delhi to Salem, Tamil Nadu. The vehicle was intercepted, stopped, and an order for detention was passed under Section 129 of the CGST Act for non-confirmation of the existence of a consignor and a consignee. So, Section 129 deals with detention. Since the details of consignor and consignee was not confirmed to the officer, the vehicle was stopped and the vehicle was detained. Thereafter, a show cause notice under Section 129(3) of the CGST Act dated 25th August 2020 was issued, calling on the petitioner to show cause why there should not be a levy of tax and penalty as contemplated under Section 129(1)(b). So, a show cause notice was issued for the detention, and the petitioner filed objections via a reply dated 1st September 2020, but could not establish the existence of a consignor and a consignee. So, though he has submitted the reply, but he was unable to mention who is the consignor and who is the consignee. Therefore, it appeared to the government that there existed an intent to evade, resulting in issuance of another show cause notice dated 7th September 2020, this time under Section 130. So 130 deals with confiscation. So first notice was issued under detention provisions, Section 129, and since he is not confirming who is the consignor and consignee, the authorities have presumed that there is an intention to evade the taxes. Therefore, they have proceeded under Section 130 and issued a show cause notice under confiscation section. This show cause notice stated that the earlier show cause notice dated 25th August 2020 under Section 129(3) stood abated. So in this show cause notice under Section 130, which deals with confiscation, they have clearly mentioned that the earlier show cause notice issued under Section 129 for the detention is abated. So that is stopped. Now the petitioner challenged the validity of the second notice dated 7th September 2020 as improper exercise of power because no order was passed for concluding proceedings initiated via the earlier notice dated 25th August 2020. So the petitioner is challenging the second notice. He is saying that without concluding the proceedings under Section 129, you have initiated provisions under Section 130. This is not proper exercise of powers. First, you should have concluded the proceedings under Section 129 and then you should have come to Section 130. And what Karnataka High Court has said, the Karnataka High Court held that both Sections 129 and 130 of the CGST Act begin with a non-obstant clause. So the detention section as well as confiscation section, they both start with notwithstanding clause, which is a non-obstant clause, which establishes that commencement of proceedings under Section 130 does not require that proceedings initiated under Section 129 should have ended. So the Karnataka High Court is of the view that there is no need to end Section 129 and start Section 130 proceedings. This is for the mere reason that both the sections start with a non-obstant clause, which means both the sections can be initiated simultaneously. There is no bar in the law. So finally they said that the proper officer can levy applicable tax and penalty under Section 129 while simultaneously adjudging confiscation under Section 130 of the CGST Act. So Karnataka High Court held that proceedings under Section 129 and 130 can be simultaneously initiated under both the sections. The next High Court case is of Delhi High Court. Anticipatory bail granted when proved that ITC is not fraudulently availed under CGST Act 2017. So the question here is whether the anticipatory bail can be granted when proved that input tax credit is not availed fraudulently under CGST Act 2017. So this is the issue. Let us see the facts. It was alleged by the department that the petitioner and her husband had created 5 bogus export forms and fraudulently availed ITC of 45 crores on the strength of fake invoices providing fabricated information on the e-waybill portal. So if you just know the background of section 132, if you fraudulently avail ITC by creating bogus forms etc. or fake invoices and the value is more than 5 crores, the imprisonment will be not exceeding 5 years and there will be fine also. It was further alleged that on inquiry it was found that all their suppliers were either non-existent at the declared principal place or at the business address given in the GST registration. Moreover, none of the transporters transported the goods for the companies in question except one transporter who disclosed that he transported the goods from a warehouse to ICD, TKD and not from any of the suppliers as claimed by the husband of the petitioner. So none of the transporters have transported the goods for the companies it seems, and only one transporter is saying yes, I have transferred some goods from the warehouse to ICD in land container depot for export purposes and not from any of the suppliers as claimed by the husband of the petitioner. The petitioner submitted that the companies availed the ITC as per section 16 of the CGST Act 2017 after fulfilling the criteria mentioned therein. The suppliers of the company have been filing GSTR1 and 3B returns and the tax liability of the companies is auto-populated in GSTR2A. So petitioner is claiming that they have claimed ITC only as per section 16 of CGST Act, and they also submitted that suppliers have filed their GSTR1 and they have filed their GSTR3B also, and the tax liability of the companies is auto-populated in GSTR2A, and this company is also filing 3B and 9C with audit which matches with the returns filed by the suppliers. So this is the submission made by the petitioner. Therefore, the petitioner has filed a petition under section 438 of Criminal Procedure Code seeking anticipatory bail in relation to the inquiry or investigation being conducted by the respondent under CGST Act 2007. So the petitioner version is that he has availed the credit as per section 16 only. It is not a fake credit, but department is arguing that no, it is a fake credit. Therefore, he is subject to imprisonment up to 5 years and he has to pay the fine. It was held by Delhi High Court that the suppliers had supplied goods to the companies which had been further exported by them to the buyers. In addition to this, payments received by the companies from their foreign buyers were transferred online to the account of the suppliers. Therefore, it was wholly misconceived that the suppliers were non-existent. As regards the supply of goods by the transporter, the e-waybills were uploaded by the supplier wherein the vehicle number and HSN code are mentioned. Moreover, after uploading the e-waybill, the goods were transported by the vehicle concerned at ICD Tughlakabad, wherein the entry passes were issued by the custom authorities. The goods were unloaded from the vehicle and inspected by the authorities. This leaves no doubt that the goods are not transported by the vehicle concerned as they go through different levels of checks and inspections. Delhi High Court is saying that there is no doubt that the goods are not transported. It is clear for us the goods have been transported. Therefore, in view of the above facts, it was held that the custodial interrogation of the applicant was not required. So, the Delhi High Court is of the version that there is no need to custodially interrogate the applicant. Therefore, the anticipatory bail was granted, and the arresting officer was also directed that in the event of arrest, the petitioner shall be released on her furnishing a personal bond in the sum of 25,000. Now, moving on to advance rulings from High Court judgments. This advance ruling is by AAR Karnataka in the matter of Guitar Head Publishing LLP. The applicant is engaged in the business of selling guitar training books in the USA UK and Canada through its website. The applicant sends soft copies of the books to the printer located in the USA, who prints it and ships it to the customers in those countries. In another business model, the applicant has an agreement with Amazon, which through its website Amazon and based on the choice of the customers, either prints the books and sells these to consumers on their own account or shares the link to download the e-books in the electronic devices and pays the royalty to the applicant as agreed between them. The question before authority is whether the supply of goods outside India from a warehouse located outside India is a supply under GST. If books located outside India are supplied to customers located outside India under GST, then whether GST is applicable or not. Further, whether GST is applicable on the shipping charges located from the customer for delivery outside India. So if they are collecting the shipping charges from the customer located outside India, then whether GST is applicable. And where the content is supplied from India, whether GST is applicable on the printing charges undertaken outside India and the storage of books in the warehouse outside India. So the Karnataka AAR has held that goods are supplied by the person from the warehouse located in USA, which is outside India, to the customers which are outside India. Both are non-taxable territories. Schedule 3 relevant to Section 7 of CGST Act 2017, Class 7 of Schedule 3 specifies that supply of goods from a place in non-taxable territory to another place in the non-taxable territory without such goods entering into India shall be treated neither as supply of goods nor a supply of services. So in our case also it is like that. Both of them, the goods are not entering into India and goods are being supplied from one non-taxable territory to another non-taxable territory. Therefore, Schedule 3 says that you should neither treat it as a supply of goods nor supply of services. Therefore, the said supply is not liable to GST. Similarly, shipping charges collected from recipients outside India is not liable to GST. However, the supplier providing the shipping service is outside India and the recipient, that is the applicant, is in India. So if any amount is being paid to that supplier from India, then the expenses incurred on the shipping charges is liable to GST under reverse charge mechanism, because that becomes an import of service and therefore you have to pay GST under RCM. Similarly, for printing charges also, if it is paid outside India, they are liable to GST under reverse charge mechanism because you are paying from India and the supplier of printing charges is outside India. Therefore, it becomes import of services and you have to pay GST under RCM. In case of warehousing services, since the books are stored in a warehouse outside India, the same is not taxable under GST. So warehousing services is a kind of service which is related to immovable property, where the place of supply will become where the warehouse is located. Now since the warehouse is located outside India, the place of supply becomes outside India, and since the supplier of service is outside India and place of supply is also outside India, then this transaction alone is not taxable under GST. Moving on to Haldi Power System, AR Karnataka. Concessional rate of GST is not applicable to the subcontractor, as the main contractor is neither a central government nor state government or local authority. Applicant has received a subcontract from the main contractor, who has been awarded a contract by a government department for civil, electrical and mechanical work relating to an irrigation scheme. So subcontractor has received some contract from the main contractor. The main contractor is supplying to government department. The question before the authority is whether the concessional rate of GST shall apply to subcontractor. The main contractor being a provider of works contract to a government entity, and there is no question on transaction between main contractor and the government entity. That is concessional rate definitely. But the question here is, since the subcontractor is only supplying to main contractor, can we extract the concessional rate which is applicable only for supply to government entities for the subcontractor also, because subcontractor is not directly giving it to government entity? the authority noted that the privity of the contract is between applicant and the main contractor. So it is only between subcontractor and the main contractor. However, the main contractor is not covered under government. Of course, we all know that main contractor is not a government party and it is not a government entity also. Therefore, authority has held that the supply made by the applicant is not covered by the concessional rate of GST. But if you see, in crux, the subcontractor is passing the property of goods to government directly. Though it is made via main contractor, subcontractor is giving it to main contractor is giving to government. Therefore, this transaction is also subject to concessional rate of taxes or GST in my view. They have given note here also. In this regard, the readers may note that the decision of Supreme Court in the case of L&T versus State of Andhra Pradesh, where the court has held that even if there is no privity of contract between the contractee and the subcontractor, that would not do away the principle of transfer of property by the subcontractor by employing the same on the property belonging to the contractee. That would not do away with the principle of transfer of property by the subcontractor by employing the same on the property belonging to the contractee. This reasoning is based on the principle of accretion of property in goods. It is subject to the contract to the contrary. Thus, in our view, in such a case, the work executed by the subcontractor results in a single transaction and not multiple transactions. The apex court in this case holds that the transfer of property directly happens from the subcontractor to the client or contractee. In this case, it is government and not the main contractor. Accordingly, the service is consumed only once from the subcontractor to the client. Based on this L&T judgment, someone may argue that even the subcontractor is also entitled for concessional rate of GST. Bowring Institute AR Karnataka, the judgment says that the amendment related to mutuality between club or unincorporated association and its members is not yet notified, and therefore the same will continue to remain non-taxable by virtue of Supreme Court judgment in the case of Kolkata Club. Let us read the facts to understand the judgment. The applicant is a club and non-profit organization. Now this club is asking two questions. First question is whether the amount collected as membership subscription fee, which is paid by the members towards facilities provided, are liable as a supply of service under GST, whether this membership subscription fee is subject to GST, and whether the amounts collected as infrastructure development fund for the development and maintenance of the facilities provided by the applicant are liable as supply of service under GST. The authority noted that the Supreme Court judgment in the case of Kolkata Club is fully applicable to the applicant. So in the Kolkata Club case, it has been held that members and club are not two different persons. If there are no members, then there is no club. Therefore, service tax is not applicable in case if any club is providing the service to its members. There is no service tax. So the authority of Karnataka AAR is also saying that in this case also under GST, Kolkata Club case is fully applicable to the applicant. It is held that the doctrine of mutuality applies and these clubs which are similar to that of the applicant are not excisable to service tax. So service tax is not applicable. The Finance Act 2021 has overruled what the courts have held till now and has countered the principle of mutuality by way of explanation, which states that members are constituents of the club and the club are two separate entities and the persons for the purpose of Section 7 of the CGST Act 2017, which defines supply. So there was an amendment which was contemplated in the Finance Act 2021. In that amendment, irrespective of this Supreme Court judgment, they wanted to bring this amendment to tax the transactions between club and members. They have proposed an amendment mentioning that if club provides any service to its members, then that is subject to GST and that is a supply, and irrespective of this any other Supreme Court judgments or any other law, it will be still deemed to be a supply under GST. However, the amendment brought in section 7 by way of section 108 of the Finance Act 2021 will come into effect only on the date when the central government notifies the same. Only when the amendment is notified under GST, then only this transaction between the clubs and its members is taxable under GST. If this amendment is not notified, till that time the Supreme Court judgment in the Kolkata club case will be applicable. In that case, it has been held that there is no service tax, and the same rationale will be applicable under GST also, and therefore there is no GST on the transactions between the club to its members. Thank you.